is Jules, and I consider myself to be neurodiverse. I have dyspraxia that was diagnosed in my early 30s, and I am also the mother to a neurodiverse daughter. What neurodiversity means to me is that your brain functions differently and processes information differently from a neurotypical brain. I think neurodiversity can take many forms. It could be ADHD, it could be autism, it could be dyslexia, dyspraxia like myself. It could be dyscalculia. It is where your brain is processing information differently from what would normally be expected. What advantages do I think there are from being neurodiverse? I actually think there are quite significant advantages, because you see the world in a different way. You process information in a different way. So you notice different things. You might notice different patterns. You might notice something that nobody else notices in a picture or in a lecture when you're listening to somebody talk. You might have a different way of completing a task that nobody else has thought about. From my experience, people who are neurodiverse are extremely courageous. They're extremely hardworking because they have to achieve everything that they're expected as to their neurotypical counterparts, but they have a significant disadvantage for whatever reason, whatever that is, and they still try and they still complete tasks at a level that hasn't been designed for them. And I think that makes them incredibly brave, creative people. I feel very at peace with my dyspraxia diagnosis. Like I said, it was a long time coming. It makes me who I am. So if that means I constantly tell you to go left whilst I'm pointing right, hey, get along for the ride. That's how my brain processes things. And I try and find the good sides of having the condition. I do, however, think there are significant disadvantages to being neurodiverse. I don't feel that we live in a hugely supportive world if you're neurodiverse. I think that you have to justify yourself all the time. I think you have to, you're held account to standards that are not fair to your brain processing. You're expected to complete things the same as everybody else. And I think a lot of the time we do, but I think it comes at a cost. I think we work much harder, which is exhausting. I think dealing with such things as sensory shutdown or sensory overwhelm is very challenging, be it light, be it loud noises, be it just having to process a lot of information or organize something big. Those things have a real physical and mental strain on your body, and I don't feel that is widely understood yet. And I think, as somebody who spent a very long time seeking a diagnosis, knowing that there was something fundamentally different about me, and having grown up and going to school in the early 90s, that was missed, and it made my childhood quite difficult at times. And I think there is potentially now going to be a wave of people in their 30s and 40s going, oh my goodness, actually this really resonates with me. And that's been a disadvantage, is that we haven't had that awareness up to now. What more can be done to support neurodiverse people? I think there's a lot. I think we're moving in the right direction. Over the last 4 or 5 years, there has been a real greater awareness of conditions such as ADHD and autism and dyslexia. Dyspraxia has unfortunately not received the same level of attention yet, but it will come. But raising that awareness that these conditions require alterations or accommodations, but you're still a perfectly functioning human being. I think we should if you're neurotypical, you really need to get alongside those who are neurodiverse and understand how their brain works and how the world impacts them. Because when you have that level of understanding, you can make those sometimes tiny little accommodations that make a huge difference to the person and the way they're able to live their lives. I kind of feel like if we're willing to turn the lights off or down in a shop and turn the music off for an hour of the week because it means that autistic people can access a supermarket, why aren't we doing those things all the time? I think we need much greater support across the board. But I am really heartened by some of the changes I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, and I hope that that will continue to develop. Do I think that all schools do enough to support neurodiverse pupils? Unfortunately, I absolutely don't. I find that very challenging. I think, and it is no fault of schools or of teachers a lot of the time. Speaking as a teacher myself, there needs to be a lot more training, a lot more awareness, a lot more funding, so that schools can put in effective sensory breaks with good equipment. They can work alongside professionals such as occupational therapists and speech and language or physios to make sure that pupils are given the right support to make good progress. I think on a personal level, schools are much more accepting now, which is fantastic, but now they need to put that acceptance into practice, which is very difficult in the current climate. But I think we have a huge way to go. And my experiences as a parent of a neurodiverse child have been extremely challenging at times, just trying to get the right support in place. So I do think there is some excellent practice out there in schools, but I think those schools with that excellent practice really need to be given the opportunity to act as a beacon for the schools who are finding it a little bit more challenging. And finally, is there anything else I'd like to tell your listeners? I think the fact that this awareness is being raised this week is a really, really positive step forward. Speaking as somebody who is neurodiverse, raising a neurodiverse child, thank you for having an interest, and just educate yourself on these conditions and some of the tiny, sometimes little accommodations you can make to make that person's life easier. It isn't huge, massive changes a lot of the time. It can just be having 5 minutes off task in a lesson. It can just be having a gentle text reminder that you need to be somewhere at a certain time. But I really feel the more we learn as a collective community, the more impact we can have